Contribute to the #PuckStrong movement for mental health in hockey athletes by watching the video, tweeting the hashtag, and sharing your stories on the website. Let's face it, guys, it's been the subject of a lot of people's discussions recently. I've gotten comments to talk about this as it is a sort of big piece of news. Let's be honest here. Nikita Tramkin, a name that we haven't really talked about all too frequently in the past few months. He came out with a few statements that were published on the Twitters, and it was really interesting. Nikita Tramkin via email, check out this tweet over here. I looked after the Canucks all season. It was easy because of the time difference. 12 hours from Vancouver to... I'm not even gonna try. I wake up and watch the games, highlights. I'm still interested how the team plays. Would I like to come back? Why not? And this is really what's getting a lot of people excited. Let's face it, when he originally stepped into the lineup a few years ago, it was exciting. Everyone was sort of comparing the hype to Pavel Bure. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the skill level was at Pavel Bure, definitely not, but the whole hype of the situation and just everything that we were greeted with. The fact that they were both guys coming over from Russia and stepping into the Vancouver lineup. It was exciting, and Nikita Tramkin today is giving us reasons to continue that excitement. But interestingly enough, obviously, some of the comments I've been receiving asking, oh, do you think Tramkin's coming back next season? That I don't think is the case here. Because back when Nikita Tramkin signed back with the Avtomobilis in Russia, it was a 3-year deal. His contract goes until 2020. So that, unless he's willing to buy out the contract, which I don't think is really a thing that's going to happen here, he's probably going to stay in the KHL next season, and maybe even a year after that. I'm not really too sure here, but seeing as he did sign in 2017 for the 17-18 season to start things off, he is just coming off of 1 year on his contract. So he does have a little bit more time to spend in the KHL on contract. But it's very interesting the fact that he's been very open about his desires and willingness to come back to the Vancouver Canucks. There are a whole bunch of media outlets talking about this now, and it's sort of understandable, because Tramkin, let's face it, if you look at the depth chart, he is arguably the best defensive prospect we have. Arguably better today than Olli Juolevi. I'm not saying that the ceiling is at the same level or anything, but it's just that today, it's fair to say that Tramkin is a better defenseman than Juolevi is, and that certainly is a reason for this continued excitement. Of course, when we look back and we talk about Tramkin playing on the Vancouver Canucks, I actually remember the first game that he was in on the practices. I was there, it was against Winnipeg, I was with a few of my buddies, and we were really stoked to see this big 6-foot-something giant out there on the ice. 6'7", 6'8", something like that off the top of my head. 88, huge defenseman, and we were like, yo, he's gonna play, he's in the lineup. And he didn't play. He was only there for the practice, and we were kind of disappointed, but at the same time, he played, I think it was the next game, and this is when we were like, yeah, no, he's going to be really interesting to watch, especially based off of the perspective that the Vancouver Canucks apparently showed him a whole bunch of videos of Chris Pronger telling him, you see this guy? This is the guy that you need to play like. And obviously that didn't really go very well. I made a few videos about Nikita Tramkin already. The first one was actually when he left for the KHL. That was talking about the concerns that he felt, him and his wife, I believe, moving to a new foreign city all by themselves with no other friends, and being forced to just be in a brand new environment and try to assimilate themselves into a new culture with no support, basically. And the homesickness came in. Even though he was a professional athlete, they still have to deal with emotional things like that, and he ended up going back to Russia, where he just concluded his first season, which, let's face it, it was really good. For a good portion of the KHL season, Tramkin was legitimately considered one of the best defensemen in the KHL. He was named the KHL's Defenseman of the Month for November and October, and he was on the first All-Star team. Really. KHL really got themselves a good dose of Nikita Tramkin this past season, and let's face it, he was a really effective player back when he was playing over there. Playing for Avtomobilis this past season, 51 games played with the A on his sweater, 25 points, 9 goals, 16 assists. He genuinely was a player who, let's face it, was effective. He got 109 penalty minutes as well, the most penalized player in the KHL. And obviously, let's face it, all the successes that he was able to accomplish here in the KHL this past season, it cemented himself as a really good athlete. He played for the World Championship team as well, Team Russia. The only thing that he missed out on was the Olympics, Olympic athletes from Russia, which a lot of people were pretty surprised about. But now, this athlete, who did have a pretty darn good past KHL season, is expressing his openness into coming back to Vancouver. And the Canucks, they hold on to his rights until 2022. So 2 years after Tramkin's contract in the KHL expires, that's the timeline here. Assuming that he doesn't get his own contract in the KHL bought out for some reason in order to come over to Vancouver, which is a possibility, but I don't really see that happening considering that he is a prime player for Avtomobilis as he has that A. But it's really interesting just to note that this is an option here. And because it is an option, we have to take a look at what we're able to accomplish if he does come back. Because I already talked about it a little bit earlier, let's face it, he's better than Juolevi already. So, Tramkin coming back, he gives us a lot of security. And he adds another layer of defense to our team that we desperately need, let's be honest here. We need defense. We just have Juolevi, Stecher basically for the long term, but he's not really a prospect anymore. And like Jolin Chatfield, Jean Brisebois, none of these guys are guarantees to cut it in the future other than probably Stecher. So getting Tramkin back, definitely as a left-handed huge defenseman, would solidify ourselves in a position to say, yes, we are one step closer to maintaining a solid future decor. And Tramkin, he has improved. I remember him playing for the Canucks in his last season, 16-17. Remember, he did play 66 games, and in those 66 games, he did get 2 goals and 9 assists. I remember his celly for that goal in Calgary. That was a great celly. It was aggressive, it was emotional, passion-filled. It was great. And I'm looking forward to seeing that more and more if he's able to come back, because there are a whole bunch of people talking about this now. And one of the biggest things here is basically the concern for why he left. Remember when we talked about him leaving, and he talked about the homesickness, the wife, the emotions, but there was one thing that he also talked about as well, and that was the ice time. He didn't like the fact that guys like Lucas Spiza and all that were being prioritized over him, which is fair because I don't believe Spiza was that much better than Tramkin anyway, but now that Tramkin has established himself as a full-time, definite number 1, number 2 KHL defenseman, it'd be interesting to see how he transitions back into the NHL. And equally so, it would be as interesting to see how Travis Green is going to deploy him, because Travis Green already talked about how he's going to give Pettersson all the opportunities that he deserves because he's already proved himself. Tramkin, like it or not, has proved himself in other ways too in a different league. So Travis Green, being the smart man that he is, should be able to look at that and say, yes, he is a player who probably deserves more ice time than guys like, I don't know, Eric Goodbranson or Michael Del Zotto. I'd rather have Tramkin in the position to develop himself alongside of guys like Besser, Pettersson, Horvat, and all that. And Tramkin isn't really that old either. Tramkin is still 23 years old, and I know he was an overager when he was drafted, but he was a player who was drafted in the 3rd round for a reason. He was a guy who people kind of had their eyes on. People had their eyes on him at the draft. People had their eyes on him when he debuted in Vancouver a year ago. And people had their eyes on him recently while he was playing in the KHL, dominating the league. People have their eyes on him still, because he's expressed interest in playing with the Canucks. And it wasn't like super professional, I would be honored to come back and everything. It was like, yeah, why not? Let's play for them again. It was really colloquial, and I find that so different than how his disposition was held when he was here the first time. Because when he was here the first time, it was all like serious, emotional, sick from home, girlfriend, wife, everything, yada yada yada. But now he's all like chill about it. Yeah, let's go back. I'd be willing to do that. That's cool. Let's do it. I don't know. It's just something interesting to me. I know that last little bit of information isn't really something that a lot of people would say is like contributing to the discussion, but I don't know. It's something that I wanted to bring up. And overall, Tramkin is a guy who just is going to make splashes as he continues his hockey career, because if he comes back to Vancouver, automatically he's a guy that we use. And that is something that I think is really important here. And I think a lot of you guys understand that as well, which is why I've been getting so many requests to talk about it over the past 24 hours. But that's basically it. Nikita Chryapkin potentially coming back. We have more hope now than ever, and let's face it, he's good now. Hope you guys enjoyed this Virtual Plus, and as for like that for saying gaming, and bye.